crystal lovers. Ashley here with the Love and Light School of Crystal Therapy, and I am super excited today to talk to you about crystals for the water element. This is something that I'm really excited about, and I hope it will be the first in a series touching on the 5 elements and how we can work with our crystals as companions, as correspondences, as guides to understanding the deeper archetypal energies of each of the elements. So the elements represent the 4 creative energies of the universe, and each of them has sort of a distinct set of archetypal energies, different characteristics that sort of cue us into how those elements work within us, work in the world around us, and getting familiar with these can really help you better understand their energetic influence on you, because we correspond so many different things to the elements. We have planetary correspondences, tarot correspondences, crystal correspondences, plant spirit medicine correspondences. There are so many different things that we can sort of put in context through these elemental associations. And so I would like to look at that through the lens of crystal work, because that is, as you know, the thing that I am the most fascinated by, to understand a little bit deeper the properties of these crystals. But I want to tell you first, water has had such a deeply profound impact on my life. From walking around the pond near my grandparents' house every summer and enjoying that time with my grandpa while he showed me the native plants in the area and told me all about them, and just getting to admire the beauty and the calm stillness of that sweet pond in the summer, to hiking around the woods near my house in college while I was going to school for horticulture and botany to learn about skunk cabbages and do a species plot of the forest, and enjoying all of that marshland and the difference in energy there, to my really profound pilgrimage that I took to Avalon, to Glastonbury in 2019, where I first connected with the energy of the red spring at Chalice Well and the white spring, which had a huge impact on my spiritual practice, so much so that early last year, actually right about this time last year, I took a journey there with my dear friend Nicholas Pearson, and we co-facilitated an amazing crystal retreat at the Chalice Well. And so water has really been ever present in my life, even though I am a sort of landlocked Midwesterner. My connection with water may look a little bit different than yours, being that I am here in the Midwest. I connect a lot more through lakes and rivers and springs and ponds. If you're coastal, maybe your connection to water has more to do with the beach and the ocean. But water has really held me in my life during times of joy, during times of grief, in moments where I felt really embodied and present, and in moments where I felt a deep connection with the mystic, with spiritual experience. And so water can be a really powerful ally and a companion and a very wise teacher. So what I would like to do today is introduce some of my favorite water element corresponding crystals, and talk a little bit about how they sort of relate to the water element, do a little show and tell with you. I thought that would be fun. But I also want to address a few other water element correspondences if this helps put this energy into more context for you. So the water element connects you with emotions, with your intuition, cleansing, and love. Some key words about the water element: the energies that it sort of evokes are fluidity, adaptation, love, memories, wisdom, reflection, healing, and release. The color correspondence for water is typically blue, and it can be identified with a few different symbols, either a blue crescent moon, usually upturned like this, or an inverse triangle, meaning the point goes down, almost like a little cup or container, a vessel for that water. The season that the water is usually associated with in Western esoteric tradition is the autumn, and the direction it's typically associated with is the west. Although culturally, depending on your background, this may shift and change. The parts of the body that are most commonly associated with water are the belly. So think about your belly. It's sort of a large vessel, a container for fluids, your adrenal glands, and your intestines. The zodiac signs associated with the water element are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. And then the tarot suit that's associated with water are the cups or chalices. And this represents, again, emotions, intuition, love, and it's sort of a mirror of your heart in the tarot. So all things that are strongly aligned with water. And then the planets that we associate with the element of water are Venus and the moon, both very watery, emotional, loving, nurturing planetary energies. So I thought I would walk through each of these different crystals for the water element, do a bit of show and tell you why I think they're connected. Now I want to put out a little caveat here. These are my associations, my correspondences with the water element. There are many more than this than I can possibly cover, even though I've pulled a good bit of them to show you today. But I think it's also important to let you know that these are things that I associate with water, and your correspondences, your crystal choices that sort of evoke the essence or energy of water may look a little different, and that's okay. There is nothing set in stone about this. There is nothing that is definitive. This is based on your experience, your intuitive insight. So if your correspondences deviate a little bit from mine, that's okay. And they should, based on your personal experience. So I want to start with Blue Lace Agate, and I think I'll just go alphabetical for simplicity's sake here. Blue Lace Agate is a really cooling water element stone. So if you're feeling particularly intense emotions, you know, it's important for us to feel and acknowledge and express all of our emotions. But sometimes when we're having a really hard time, just like getting them under control or expressing them in a helpful way, especially really fiery anger and rage, which can be so powerful and so healing and so important, it can be still challenging when we can't get those things in a place where we can work through them healthfully. So if that's the case, then Blue Lace Agate is a great companion for reminding you to sort of breathe, slow down, and get in tune and in touch with those emotions in a way that is beneficial for you. And I love this stone because look, it almost looks like little clouds, little tufts, as all of those layers of cryptocrystalline quartz have formed this agate. So this is a stone that I love so, so much. It's just a beautiful one, and maybe it's one that you have in your crystal toolkit as well. There's also Batswana Agate, and this one sort of reminds you to go with the flow. Because it's an agate, it's also very banded and layered. This is interesting. This is actually a slice out of sort of a nodule. So these are found near the Limpopo River in Africa, in Botswana in Africa. And they come in a range of colors, sometimes gray, mauve, pink, lavender, lilac, even sort of a bright apricot color. So just find one that you feel really drawn to or connected to. There's also Lake Superior Agate, and here in the Midwest, we have the Great Lakes as our biggest bodies of water. And this is Lake Superior Agate. This piece is highly polished just on this one face, and then there's sort of a light, just, you know, basic sort of tumble on the rest of this, but you can really see that beautiful banding. And Lake Superior agates are generally in this sort of burnt orange, reddish, brownish color range, sometimes with little bits of gold or tan and white bands, but they're so pretty when you get to reveal those layers of banding that formed long, long ago. So this connects you with the energy of the water element, which is a life-giving source, and it helps you in any healing work that you're doing for the earth's bodies of water. So it really helps you give back to the earth. There's also river agate. River agate, this one's from Brazil. This one helps you sort of tap into your inner power, like water carving through rock, like a river running through rock and carving its way through over time. So it helps you sort of embody that strength, that power, that ability to shift and make changes, even when you're coming up against huge obstacles, huge challenges. So it reminds you of that power that you hold, just like water. Water can be soft and gentle, but at times is really a force to be reckoned with. So there's also Amazonite. Amazonite, and I have some Amazonite here from Colorado and the United States. This is a really large Amazonite crystal. Most of the time we see this tumbled or in palm stones available on the mineral market, but you can find these large crystals or even little small ones, and often from Colorado they'll form alongside smoky quartz, which is a great combination. So Amazonite lets our compassion flow like water from our heart. So if you really need to embody compassion, energy, empathy, caring, nurturing, and sort of share that in an act of service and an act of support for others, Amazonite is a lovely crystal companion to work with. There's also Vera Cruz Amethyst, and this stone, I have a little sort of flowery cluster of Vera Cruz here. It's so soft lilac. I mean, you can barely see that purple color. Some are a little more vibrant than others, but they're all usually a pretty soft, pale amethyst color. And most of the time these just form in, or are available, I should say, in single points. It's harder to get the little clusters. This is from Las Vegas, not Las Vegas, Las Vegas, Vera Cruz in Mexico. And this reminds you of the life-giving energy of water, that all things are dependent on water, that, you know, the plants, just like ourselves, just like the land, all are nurtured and sustained through water, and it's one thing that connects all life here on Earth. So a great stone of connection. There's also aquamarine. Aquamarine, literally named for the sea. So this is a large aquamarine from India, and aquamarine is a stone of the sea. It reminds us of the energy of the sea and its creatures, the vast diversity of life that exists in our oceans. So it reminds us that, you know, it takes all of our connection, all of our individual roles, all of our individual parts of the dance, so to speak, here on Earth to create the great drama, the great play, the great experience that we're all participating in. So my role is just as important as your role, is just as important as the role of the bumblebee or the blade of grass, and aquamarine helps remind us of that, that we are all valued, that we are all valid, that we all contribute. There's also brown aragonite, and this is a stone that I think is most commonly available on the mineral market as tumbled stones that are banded, alternating light and dark bands. So I thought I would show you something a little different. This is actually a botryoidal aragonite. This piece is from Peru. And how cool is that? It's this little bubble-like cluster. That's what the botryoidal means. So any sort of brown, earthy color of aragonite is great for helping you release the fear of water. It's an excellent support and companion as that's something that you work through. So because it has that sort of earthy energy, it grounds you in, helps you feel like your feet are firmly planted on earth as you work to release any fear around water, because water can be very powerful. It can be very scary for many people. There's also Azerite, and Azerite promotes a lot of mental clarity during your intuitive work because water and intuition are so deeply linked. This is a great water element stone for embodying that intuitive piece. So here I have a bicolor, so two different colors of Azerite. This is from Morocco, and look at how glittery this is. I just love this stone. And so it really sort of gets you in that place of cosmic connection, of tapping into, universal guidance, wisdom, messages that you need to hear. So fantastic for intuitive support. There's also our next crystal, which is Aquacalcite. Aquacalcite. This border's almost on green, but I consider the green calcite to be a little bit more lime or emerald color, and this sort of blue-green is most commonly called aquacalcite. So you can find this. Most of the time it's available in rough stones for very affordable prices. You can get it from Mexico or from Pakistan or Afghanistan. So this facilitates a lot of calmness in your mind. So being like that still, calm, tranquil pool of water, that calm, tranquil pond, right? Where if you tossed a stone in, you could sort of see the little ripples because everything is so calm and peaceful. Holding one of these aquacalcites, closing your eyes, maybe even putting it over your heart and taking a few deep breaths really helps you sort of embody that energy of the calmness of water, the calmness that water can take on. There's also red coral calcite. Now this is a trade name I found, and I can't seem to find any difference between this and a regular quote unquote red calcite. It usually looks like this. It's a little deeper in color than what is commonly known as apple calcite, but it's a beautiful sort of melon color, sort of a peachy melon color. And this red coral calcite connects you with the energy of the water element. So if you want to really dive deep into those archetypal energies of water, you want to understand water better as a teacher, red coral calcite, really, really helpful to work with. There's also white calcite, and I have a piece of white calcite here from China. And look at this, it's super druzy. So all of these little glittery bits are tiny little crystals. But if you look close, it almost looks sort of overall like it has a coral-like formation. And that's because calcite and coral have the same chemical composition, which is really fascinating. So white calcite offers you space for reflection. Just like water can be a mirror, a reflecting tool, white calcite helps us tap into that energy and do that inner work, do that self-reflection, get really real and honest with ourselves about what's going on, about what might need shifting or changing, about what we're doing great and should be celebrated. So white calcite, fantastic for that. And any form of white calcite is just fine. It doesn't have to be the druzy variety. There's also Cavinsite. Cavinsite. So this is from Punjab in India. So the Cavinsite are these little spherical nodules that are on this matrix of heulandite. There's also a little stilbite here. And this wasn't discovered formally until the 1960s, which is super interesting. So Cavinsite connects you with the energy of the sea. It just has that energetic depth, just like the depth of the ocean. And so this is a fantastic crystal if you are really, really connected with the sea. Maybe you yearn to be by the sea, you yearn to be by the ocean, you yearn for that healing of the tide, and maybe you're separated from it for some reason. Some Cavinsite can be a great link to that energy, even when you have to be sort of away from that in your life. There's also blue chalcedony, and stand by because the piece I have is huge, but it's so beautiful I wanted to make sure to show it to you. This is a really large blue chalcedony sphere. It is absolutely huge, and look at this calming blue. So I showed you blue lace agate earlier. Would you be surprised to learn that these are more or less the same thing? So agate, we call agate when it has banding. Chalcedony, we call chalcedony when there's no banding present, but it's slightly transparent or translucent. But these are both cryptocrystalline varieties of quartz. So it's blue lace agate when it has those fantastic lacy bands and layers, and it's chalcedony when it's a little bit more solid. And there are some bits of matrix in here. That's sort of what you're seeing here. But I mean, look at this. It looks like, mist rising over a lake or a pond or a spring early in the day. I love this crystal. So blue calcite reminds you to shift and change according to your present circumstances. Just like water can completely change its shape depending on what surrounds it, depending on its container, its vessel, blue chalcedony reminds us that sometimes we need to be like water. We need to change shape. We need to bend and sway and shift to fit our environment. It doesn't mean that we change who we are at our core. When you pour water in a different shaped glass, it's still water, but it takes on this different shape to suit its current circumstance. And so blue chalcedony really helps us sort of tap into that idea. And I love that sphere. There's also charoite, and I have a really large palm stone of charoite. This stone comes from Russia, and it has almost this pearlescent sheen to it. It looks a little bit like crushed velvet. It is such a cool stone, really beautiful, deep violet color, and this enhances water healing practices. So if you incorporate water into your healing work in any way, whether that's as an offering on your altar, as a way of cleansing and healing, as a way of blessing something, using it for anointing. If you practice Heido, which is based on the work of Masaru Emoto, like anything that you do that incorporates water as a healing ally, then charoite really enhances that experience. So this is a great crystal to have on hand for your water healing work. There's also chrysocolla, and I have a really cool kind of different style piece of chrysocolla to show you. This is gel chrysocolla, and if you look at the side, you can see it looks almost like candy. I don't know how to explain it. It's a little translucent. It almost looks plasticky, but this is a natural stone, and it has little extra bits of quartz and water in it, so it's called gel chrysocolla or gem chrysocolla. And this piece also has some fibrous crystals. Can you see those right there? Those are fibrous crystals of chrysocolla, which are so uncommon. This piece is from Peru. It is absolutely gorgeous. I just got it from the Tucson Gem Show this year. And chrysocolla instills a deep respect for the Earth's bodies of water. Again, water is life-giving. It is life-saving. We depend upon access to clean water, and we need to have a healthy respect for the water. We need to treat the Earth and the bodies of water here with respect, and chrysocolla reminds us to do that, and it facilitates this sort of ecological consciousness that we can share and spread in the world. There's also white coral. This was a gift from one of my students many years ago. Just a sort of heads up, if you're out on the beach, don't just pick up coral that you see. Sometimes it's really important for the ecosystem. It needs to remain there. Sometimes there are really strict rules on the collection of coral, so always follow rules about that. It's really important, often to wildlife or to the geologic richness of an area, to leave those things in place. So only collect them if you have explicit permission. But white coral encourages the communal tending of waterways and water sources. So chrysocolla helps us instill that respect for the Earth's water, and then white coral helps us take it a step further and really focus on tending to, cleaning up, taking action to make sure that those waterways are protected. And because coral is a communal organism, it's lots of different creatures kind of cohabitating, it reminds us to do this work in community. We don't have to do it on our own. We can reach out to our community for help. We can do river cleanups and lake cleanups. We can take action by calling our reps. We can protest. We can do things to ensure that all people and creatures and beings have access to clean water. Access to clean fresh water is a human right. It is so important. And so let white coral be your companion to motivate you to take action in protecting our waterways. This is so important. Next is Creedite. Creedite connects you to the energy of the water element and helps you wash away any feelings and thoughts that need to be released. And so this is what Creedite looks like, sort of these little orange spiky balls. Sometimes people get this confused with Aragonite, which looks a little similar when it's in its Sputnik formation, but Aragonite has these big, chunky, rounded, sort of barrel-shaped crystals that all come out from a central point. Creedite is so much more delicate. It almost looks like little tiny quartz or topaz crystals growing out from the center. It's like a little hedgehog. Super cute. So this is a great crystal for that. Then the next stone is DeMorite, and I just have a little tumbled stone here to show you, but this connects you to the energy of the water element so that you can go with the flow. If you have a hard time going with the flow, DeMorite can be so helpful. This one has a little bit of a gold color over here on the edge. It might have a little iron in it. It might have a little matrix in there. I think it's probably just a little iron or something. But this is from Brazil, but the blue part is the DeMorite. And sometimes you'll even see DeMorite in quartz, which gives us blue quartz, or sometimes when it's really fancy, you get the clear quartz crystals with little starbursts of DeMorite, and those are so activated and amplified by the quartz that surrounds them. They're a little more pricey, but the tumbled stones are readily available, super easy to get, and super affordable. Okay, then there is blue fluorite. Blue fluorite, and I have a very special piece of blue fluorite to show you. This is an old stock octahedron of blue fluorite from Cave in Rock, Illinois. So this comes from the very southern tip of Illinois. My grandfather is a collector of these, in particular, like, you know, fluorite from Illinois was like his special area of mineral collecting, and he actually gave me this piece. This was, you know, one of my like most treasured crystals. I love this, and it's this really soft sort of cornflower or periwinkle blue, like a forget-me-not blue. And blue fluorite connects you with the energy of the water element for cleansing, releasing, for deep emotional healing. It really holds you in your grief, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful crystal. So you can find it in lots of different sort of color shades and tones, but I love this nice sort of periwinkle blue color. Then there are one of my favorite stones. It's a fossil, and I'll actually be teaching a workshop in June that's going to be largely centered on working with these fossil echinoids, so stay tuned to that for that. But it's a fossil echinoid or sea urchin fossil. This one is of the Micraster species, which forms these natural hearts. How cute is this? Little heart-shaped fossil, and if you look really close in the center, you can sort of see all the branches of the echinoid. It creates like a little star. So can you see that star shape in the center has sort of those 5 branches that come out in all directions, like a little star shape right in the center of this heart shape. So this is, again, a special type of fossil echinoid known as Micraster. That's the species. But these enhance your connection to the water element. They are of the sea. They are born of the sea. They are literally records that contain deep wisdom of the Earth's history, of its oceans, of its bodies of water, and how that's continually changing. So I love these crystals so much. This one is actually on my altar at all times because it really helps me feel connected to the land of Avalon in Glastonbury, where the red and white springs are, these deeply healing bodies of water. And so that always stays on my altar. Next, there's Iolite. And Iolite was used to navigate the sea. It was also known as the Viking's compass. And here is a really deep, dark indigo blue Iolite palm stone, and this one's from India, and it actually has tiny little little flecks of sunstone inside. If you can see sort of right there, there's a little sparkly bit. So this has some sunstone flecks inside of it. But iolite itself was used as this navigational tool by the Vikings. And so because it was used to navigate the sea, this stone can help you find direction when you feel a bit swept up in the current of life. So if you feel like things are just a little chaotic, a little out of your control, you're feeling kind of lost or lacking clarity, reach for some iolite and those calmer waters will start to prevail. So this is a great one. There's also Gary Green Jasper. Here it is. And this has an interesting name. So it's called Gary Green Jasper. It's known as a jasper, but what it actually is a fossil. It's a petrified wood, but it's petrified wood that was formed in a bog-like condition. So it's sort of green and it's covered with all these druzy little quartz crystals. And so it's petrified bog wood is the other name for it. It took ages and ages for this stone to form. And so it encapsulates the idea that good things take time. It reminds you that you need to have patience, right? Water can create amazing changes in the landscape, in the earth, but it takes time. We're talking geologic time sometimes. So in our modern day where we're so used to like instant gratification in so many ways, it can be hard when things don't feel like they're moving at our pace or at the pace that we want them to be. So Gary Green Jasper reminds you good things take time. And so sometimes we need to have a little bit of patience. There's also blue kyanite. This is such a powerful energetic cleanser, and I picked this piece specifically because it almost reminds me of like an ocean wave crashing up against the shore. And kyanite forms in these long, beautiful, thin blades. And so this is a great cluster of those blades sort of all stuck together. But when you have sort of one in a little sheet especially, you can use that almost like a comb because this is so cleansing, similar to how you would a selenite wand. You can use this to sweep your aura, to cleanse and release energy that's not serving you. You can also hold it parallel to your spine. You can place it over your heart or over your belly and breathe in and out and just feel your energy centers become more aligned. This is a beautiful crystal for that kind of work. There's also Lapis Lazuli. Lapis Lazuli. This was a stone that was known as the stone of heaven because it's this deep indigo, and then you see these little flecks of pyrite. They almost look like the starry night sky, and this was sacred to the ancient Egyptians. It was used in a lot of art and ornamentation in ancient Egyptian culture. And this helps you recognize that there is such a powerful microcosm, macrocosm relationship between the water that's within your body and in your cells and all the water here on earth, right? So it's that feeling like, you know, you're so small compared to the vastness of the universe, but realizing we're still connected. There's still a deep relationship that happens there. Then there is Laramar, and I have this huge piece of Laramar. This is an ethically sourced piece. It's really important with our crystals to, you know, try and acquire ethically sourced pieces when that is possible. That is a term that is getting used more and more and more without much to back it up. So do your research, ask good questions, but especially in some places like the Dominican Republic where this Laramar is sourced, it's really important to make sure that that ethical sourcing is happening, to make sure workers are safe, paid fairly, no child labor is used, and then environmental impact is kept to a minimum. So Laramar is sort of a dolphin energy stone. Its alternative name is dolphin stone, and it's said to enhance communication, especially with animals, with sea creatures, with archetypes like the water element. So if you wanted to communicate, to receive messages with water, this is a really powerful ally to work with in relationship that way. There's also malachite, and I have a really large polished piece of malachite here. This one is from the DR Congo. This one is also ethically sourced. You can see all these little sort of eyes that the malachite has. That's because this is botrydal, so the malachite forms in these sort of bubble-like structures, and when it's polished, we can sort of see the interior, almost like the rings in a tree, which is pretty cool. So malachite reminds you of the healing power of the water element. Malachite itself is such a deeply healing stone, and so it reminds you that water can also be deeply healing, especially focused on love and self-love. There's also rainbow moonstone, and this assists you in recognizing cycles, important cycles, just like the ebb and flow of the tide. So we often think of rainbow moonstone as being connected to the lunar phases, the cycle of the moon. I can't get the blue flash to show up, apologies. I think I had this problem last time with this piece too. But it is such a great stone for reminding us that all things ebb and flow, just like the tide. Then there's white moonstone, which is a bit similar, but this opens you more to the creative influence of water. It helps you release fears associated with water, again, working through that. It's a great support, and it's used for healing the Earth's oceans, seas, rivers, ponds, streams, other bodies of water. So it's a great multi-purpose water energy stone, and this is just regular old white moonstone. Super easy to find this pretty much anywhere, and very, very affordable. There's also Boulder Opal, which comes from Australia. So I have this piece here. It's in an ironstone matrix, but then the opal itself is so deeply beautiful. It has lots of color, and opals get their flash because of tiny, tiny, tiny little bits of trapped water molecules that create that fire, that play of color. So we literally wouldn't have the rainbows in opals without water. It's so important. So Boulder Opal reminds us that life is precious, that there is no life without water, just like there's no fire within the opal without water. There's also hyaline opal, sometimes it's called hyalite, which is a little bit different. It's not a fiery opal, but it balances the energy of the water element within the body. So if you are naturally really fiery, like myself, I'm a Sagittarius, super fiery energy, hyaline opal is really useful. So it kind of looks weird, almost looks like a pile of hot glue on a rock. It's very weird, but this is from Mexico, and it's very different than a lot of opal maybe you have seen before. So this is really good for balancing out that energy in the body. Let's see, there's also pearl, and last time I was talking about pearls, I showed my little black and white pearls that I have, but this time I thought I would show you something different. So here I have some pearls, and these are actually family heirlooms. So this large pearl here was my great-grandmother's, and then this smaller one here was my grandmother's. And sometimes there are crystals that we might want to work with, but we don't have them just loose. But if you have them in jewelry, you can still work with those. So wear those. Bring that energy into your body. You can even use them in a crystal grid. You can use them in any way that you would a normal crystal, a layout, whatever you like. The only thing you need to be mindful of is the setting in your jewelry. So for example, this pearl is set with gold. This pearl is set with silver. I have them on a silver chain here. So you need to think about the energy that those will attribute or add into whatever you're doing, because those metals have energy as well. But pearl is a symbol of the mermaid. It's long been a symbol of mermaids. So you can also use it for cleansing the energy body. And it's also a symbol of wholeness and completion. And we would not be whole and complete without water. It's such a big part of us. Then there's actinolite included quartz. So this is quartz with inclusions of an actinolite, which can range from like a dark blue to a green. It's normally more on the blue side of things. It kind of looks like tourmalinated quartz. I don't know if you can see that very well, but there are these little needles that sort of give this an overall hazy blue-gray color because it's full of these tiny little actinolite needles, and this is just a little polished tower. But actinolite included quartz helps you understand the role that water plays in all life here on Earth. It helps you appreciate the differences that each organism sort of, again, contributes to that cosmic dance of existence. So it's really a great stone for connection. Then, similar to this, there is blue indicolite tourmaline included quartz. So it's a type of tourmalinated quartz, but instead of the traditional or regular black tourmalinated quartz, which has black tourmaline, this has inclusions of blue tourmaline, which is called indicolite. And this has a trade name it goes by. It's sometimes called blue Tara quartz, but it's very, very dark blue. So this is quartz with lots of blue tourmaline or indicolite inclusions. This is just a little cluster. It's not probably like the nicest specimen or most interesting, but there's so much tourmaline in it. So this enhances your connection to water in all ways. If you've been feeling really disconnected, out of alignment, out of flow, this really helps you get tuned back into water. Then there is Cobalt Ore Quartz. And most of you will know I don't really like working with man-made crystals, but I do make an exception for ore quartz. I do find them pretty fascinating. They're created by putting a quartz crystal in a heated vacuum chamber with precious metals. The different metals determine the different type of iridescent coating. And this is just like a few microns thick. It's chemically adhered, bonded to the surface of the quartz. It can't be scratched off. You do need to be careful though, because most of now the ore quartz that's on the market is made not with precious metals, but it's made with Teflon, so plastics. It has this slick, wet look, and it almost looks like there's a thick coating because there is. Whereas this looks, very, very sharp and clear, just like the surface of the quartz. And then it has that color from the precious metals. And this Cobalt Ore Quartz, really beautiful, deep dark blue, provides you with the space and the opportunity to learn from the water element, to really tune in and listen what water has to share with you. There's also Metamorphosis Quartz, and this is a trademarked stone. It's trademarked by Melody, who is the author of the Love is in the Earth series of books. And this is the Metamorphosis Quartz. It comes from Brazil, and it looks very similar to a girasol quartz. So if you don't have Metamorphosis Quartz, you can work with a girasol quartz instead, which you can usually find out of Madagascar. But this connects you with your emotions, with that deep sort of emotional healing energy of the water element. And then there's rose quartz. Rose quartz connects you with the emotional healing quality of water as well. And here I have a really vibrant pink rose quartz sphere from Madagascar. And I believe this is a starry rose quartz, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get it to show the star. But rose quartz, really good for that emotional healing piece that water is so known for. Then there's garden quartz. Garden quartz. It's also called, it was previously called shamanic dream quartz. Most people now know it as garden quartz. It's quartz with inclusions of chlorite and lodolite. You'll see it in lots of different shapes and forms, sometimes towers, sometimes palm stones, a lot of times these little domes, which I personally really love. This comes from Brazil, this piece here, and largely the finest quality garden quartz will come from Brazil. There is a lot that comes out of China, but you need to be very careful because there are a lot of fakes on the market with the garden quartz as well. Some of them are composite, meaning they take some sort of resin or sometimes even glass material, and they put it over whatever kind of inclusions they want to put in there. I've seen them put pyrite inside, azurite inside, all kinds of things. So you need to be really careful with that. And a lot of them that look a little bit more like this are just glass that they have created. So you want to look for a lot of internal fissures, fractures, rainbows, things like that. And if you see any really, really unusual, sort of unnatural colors, like super vibrant purple or, super vibrant mossy emerald green, you may be looking at a fake. There can be definitely like lavender and lilac inclusions, green inclusions that come from hornblende, feldspar, chlorite, lodolite, all these different things that get sort of trapped in this beautiful quartz. So that just because you have like a really interesting or beautiful color doesn't mean that it's a fake. But if it's totally flawlessly clear, no fissures, fractures, inclusions, rainbows, anything, but then inside you have that super vibrant, it almost looks like they've just put some moss inside of glass, that might be what you have. So just be careful with that. Yes, so that is the garden quartz. Then there's selenite, which I have a big crystal of selenite here for you. And this comes from Mexico. So selenite is a form of gypsum, and we call it selenite when it's really, really clear like this. This is just a large, sort of pointy chunk. But a lot of times now we use the word selenite also to describe the satin spar variety of gypsum that comes from Morocco. And that's okay. Personally, I don't mind that. They're both the same thing. They just have a little different formation. But selenite is connected with the energy of water and of the moon, which we also know is the planet that's associated or corresponds to the water element. This is excellent for intuitive flow. So if you need a little intuitive guidance, if you need to be connected with the sort of soft lunar energy of intuition, nurturing, that also we see play out in water, selenite, excellent for that. Then we have abalone shell. Abalone shell, it's also known as pow shell. This is what it looks like, and sometimes you'll see it in whole shells, sometimes you'll see it in small little like polished chips. That either is fine. It doesn't have to be a whole shell for you to work with it. But abalone is sort of, it's not a crystal. It's not something we would traditionally maybe think to use in crystal healing, but shells are so healing and powerful themselves, especially when we want to connect with water. So these are energetic vessels for the water element, and they're also physical vessels for water offerings. So you can actually place water inside of one of these shells on your altar as an offering to water spirits, to the water element, however it is that you want to connect. Then there's shungite, and I have some shungite here. This is what's called noble shungite. It's very, very high quality, very pure shungite. This comes from Russia, and shungite is great for enhancing, cleansing, and rejuvenation. And it has a deep connection to water that way. So pretty. Yeah, just really beautiful stone. Then there is silver, which I showed you. If you don't have, a silver crystal, because it can form these little sort of dendritic shaped crystals, you can just work with what you have. So if you have a silver chain, some silver jewelry, you can work with silver in that way. That's totally fine. Again, you just need to think about what other energies, crystals, whatever are present there. So silver is just in general used for water element connection. It's also linked with the moon, just like selenite and pearl. And then we have blue topaz. I have a really large blue topaz crystal here. It's very, very soft blue because it's a natural colored topaz. I know it probably just looks sort of clear on screen, but it is like barely blue. And that's because normally to get that super vibrant color blue, the topaz has to be heat treated. So blue topaz enhances your connection with bodies of water. So if there is a body of water that you really like to honor, to connect with, to be part of, to do, your healing work with, whatever, then you can work with blue topaz to help enhance that connection to that specific body of water. There's also blue tourmaline, here it is, which facilitates a connection to the water element as well. Here I have a small cluster of blue tourmaline crystals. This is sort of an aqua blue, sort of bordering on a greenish blue. My other blue tourmaline, I think I showed in a recent video, maybe about crystals for Pisces, and it was a really deep dark blue. So this one's a little different. And this is from Brazil. And then finally, there is turquoise. And turquoise carries the wisdom of the water element. So this stone can share water's wisdom with you. This is a piece of turquoise from Cornwall in England, so it's Cornish turquoise. And it's so hard to get natural turquoise that hasn't been stabilized or enhanced in any way. We've been talking about this a lot in my Crystal Fakes class series, which is included with my Crystal Healing Certification program. So turquoise, oh gosh, I love this stone. You can find in jewelry, but if you're looking for some untreated, unenhanced turquoise, you may have to look for old stock turquoise or turquoise that was sold or marketed by just a small cottage miner. So turquoise carries the energy of the water element and shares the wisdom of water. So this is a great stone for just tuning in and listening to what water has to share with you. And I'm just realizing, looking at my stones, I somehow missed amethyst. So I would like to share that one with you because this piece is so interesting. So I have this slice or slab of amethyst, and you can see that you have all these little amethyst points growing into this matrix up here. And if I shine a light, let's see if I have, I do have my phone. Let's see if I can shine the light through here. It will actually light up. Can you see those crystals? How cool is that? Right behind there. So this is a really special piece. So amethyst connects you with the intuitive aspects of the water element. So if you really want, that ability to be in a flow state and pick up on those messages that are coming through, then amethyst is a great companion. So that is my list of crystals for the water element and why I like each one of them and where the association for me sort of comes from. So if you want to work with your water element crystal, what might you do? Well, you can place it on your altar, somewhere in your sacred space, to represent your connection to the water element, and you can add next to it a symbol of the water element, something that really speaks to you and your connection to water. So maybe it's a dish of water, maybe it's a little fountain, maybe it's some seashells, a chalice or a goblet or a vessel for water. Maybe it's a mirror showing that sort of reflective quality that water has. It could be an image or statue of a mermaid or a dolphin or a sea turtle or something that helps you feel connected to water that way, or just anything else that helps you feel really tapped into the energy of the water element. So once you have your stone and your water element symbol, you can make yourself comfortable in front of your altar, pick up your water element crystal, close your eyes and just take a few deep breaths to get really centered, and ask the stone to help connect you with the energy of the water element, to provide you with clarity about whatever type of connection or wisdom you're seeking from water, and envision yourself surrounded by the energy of the water element. So as you're holding that crystal, you can breathe in that energy of water, take another deep breath in and exhale, and then open your eyes and gaze at your little water altar, the symbol, that representation of water that you've put on your altar, and just sort of tune into that for a minute. Feel into that space, and when you feel ready, close your eyes again and think about the symbolism and imagery of that thing. Why did you choose that particular representation? What thoughts are sort of coming into your mind that give you a little bit more insight into water's energy and meaning and symbolism for you right now? what messages is the water element bringing to you. Then you can take a few more deep breaths. Feel the energy of water move from your stone into your hands, filling up your aura, your energy body with that water element energy. And then you can take a few deep breaths, put your stone down, and end your session. If you want, you can journal about your experience. You can do a little artwork. Water's so deeply connected with creativity, so allowing that inspiration to sort of flow. Maybe you do some doodles or sketches. Just keep a record of any messages that you uncover, because your relationship with this elemental archetype will deepen over time. So you can perform this little mini ritual whenever you want with your chosen water element crystal. And then over on the blog, which I've linked in the description for this video and I've pinned it in the comments below, I've also put a link to a really simple water element mini meditation that you can do. And it's a really cool sort of guided visualization. So the link you can find at the bottom of this week's blog post for that mini meditation. So I would really encourage you to check it out. And if you have enjoyed learning about crystals for connecting with the water element, I'd love to invite you to join me for the 2024 Water Priestess Confluence. I'll be teaching a class there about crystals for connecting with the water element. We're going to create our own water element temple using crystals and other things, and then doing some activities with that energy that we've created. So I hope to see you there. The link for the Water Priestess Confluence is also in the description for this video. So please click through, check it out. There's currently a discounted ticket rate. You'll get access to my class as well as classes with tons of other amazing teachers. Anwen Avalon of Water Priestess Arts and the author of Water Witchcraft has put this together, so it's going to be a phenomenal event. Definitely check it out. The price increases on April 1st, so if you know you'd like to sign up, check it out, click through and enroll before then. You'll get access to all the recordings, everything, including, again, my class and the classes of all the other amazing presenters. So if you want more information, check out the blog, check out the 2024 Water Priestess Confluence. I hope to see you in class, and thank you so much for tuning in and watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I appreciate you so much, and until I see you again, many crystal blessings.